Where's the second?
Okay, so today, let's call together today's Ways and Means Committee meeting for Wednesday, November 29th, 2023. Everyone, please remember that we are being live streamed and the microphones are very sensitive, so please make sure that your phones are silenced or whatever so that we are not interrupted. Would everyone please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Carrie Ann, roll call.
Nagustakis,
Present.
Brescia.
Here.
O'Donnell.
Here.
Fagion.
Here.
Hines.
Here.
Sierra. Paduk.
Here.
Cheney.
Here.
Benton.
Here.
One out.
All righty. Let the record show also that Chairwoman Vanelli is here. I don't see any other legislators.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Okay, first up, County Executive Office, Mr. Pork. We have A, which is a request of various positions to be transferred from the Department of General Services to the Department of Information Technology Services pursuant to Civil Service Law, Section 70.2. Motion in a second, please.
Second.
It pretty much speaks for itself. The law requires us to identify the positions that have been transferred from one department to another, and we have done that. And I believe will come to you as a form of resolution for your consideration.
Okay, questions from committee members? Hearing none, all in favor as presented? Aye. Opposed? Carried. B is a request to create the following positions in the newly created Department of Information Technology Services. First, 1 Chief Information Officer, grade 28, and 1 Deputy Chief Information Officer, grade 27. Can I get a motion in a second?
Second.
Thank
you. Harry?
Okay, the new positions are proposed in the budget for 2024. The job descriptions are attached, and it pretty much speaks for itself. That's it.
Questions from committee members? Hearing none, all in favor as presented? Aye. Opposed and carried. Thank you. C is a resolution confirming the appointment by the county executive of Glenn R. Markey
Yeah, Mark.
as Chief Information Officer of the Department of Information Technology Services. Motion in a second, please. Mr. Fagion and O'Donnell. Mr. Ford?
Okay, I'll just say, in terms of background, the county executive formed a search committee. We hired a headhunter briefly. We procured approximately 22 resumes. Out of that, we interviewed about 8 people. And after all of that work, the county executive has decided to offer the position to Glenn. Glenn has accepted it, and he's here today after being appointed by the county executive for your confirmation.
Welcome, sir. Would you like to say anything?
Yeah, just real happy to be here and real excited to be joining Orange County and look forward to really laying out a great plan for the IT department to make sure we meet all the needs for our citizens. So thank you and nice to meet you all.
You have a couple of your department head colleagues that are sitting.
Oh, okay, great.
Colleagues here as well.
Look forward to have our to join as a team and work on all the issues. Thank you.
Questions from committee members? Mr. Fagion?
Thanks, Chairman. Thank you for being here today. We got a chance to meet you last week during committee and got to read your resume, your background. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience in Dutchess County and maybe your vision of what you look to bring from Dutchess County in terms of your experience here to Orange County?
Sure. No problem. So I've been I've been the CIO there for 7.5 years. And had the opportunity to really transform that department. They are ranked 1 in the nation for their IT innovation service, and it took years to get to that level. So my vision is to build an IT team here in Orange County that meets very high standards and is ranked nationally and ranked highly by New York State. So I want to make sure we become the premier IT service provider in the state and in the nation. That's my vision.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. I'm glad you're on the record to say that, and I know that I'll be committed to work with you to make sure that we make that happen. Thank you,
Excellent.
sir. Thank you,
Thank
Chairman.
you.
Thank you, Mr. Fabio. Anybody else? Mr. Paduk?
Thank you, welcome. My question would just be, have you had any relations or conversations with the interim CIO, Star CIO, in regard to what some of these major problems that we need you for and how we're gonna address it?
I just met him with a meet and greet just earlier, but didn't have a chance to talk. But I plan to meet with him, in fact, this week to iron all those things out, to see where he sees the department and where he sees it headed. So I can really understand the landscape and what changes to make.
Mr. O'Donnell?
So almost, you have two main goals, right? One is that you're gonna replace Dutchess County being number one. Orange County. being
Well, I know, that's gonna be a
number
challenge because they're both mid-sized counties, so that's gonna be a challenge.
one.
But we are going to
You're a
accomplish that.
Colonel, so you'll meet those challenges.
Yes, I will.
And two, it won't take you 7.5 years. to
No,
get
it's gonna
there.
take 7 years. We're gonna do it right away.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Any questions, comments? Well, welcome aboard, sir.
Thank you.
All in
Very
favor?
much.
Aye. Opposed and carried. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
It's gonna be great working
Thank you.
together. Thank you, Harry. Next up, I know I was told Dr. Young couldn't make it today. Paul, where's Paul? Oh, well, come on up, Paul. This is a request. Again, this is something we are well aware of. This is a request supplemental appropriation to the capital project budget in the amount of $320,000 for safety and security, access control upgrade at the Middletown and Newburgh campus. B, $725,000 for paving, drainage, and site work upgrade campus-wide. C, $625,000 for biotech. D, $300,000 for campus-wide camera upgrade at Newburgh. E, $330,000 for campus camera upgrade at Middletown. And this amounts to a total of $2,300,000. These projects have been approved under the 2023 capital plan as project number 81 to 85, and upon approval, a new capital project will be created in the amount of $1,150,000 to come from bonding. Can I get a motion in the second, please? O'Donnell, Cheney, and again, these were all grouped together specifically for saving money. Paul?
This is the last step in the capital budget process for this particular year's request. So the committees have already seen these projects once. The state has agreed in principle for their piece of it. So I would turn it over to Corey for the details of these last few projects, but we look forward to getting them underway.
Absolutely. Okay, so we're seeking approval for 5 projects. I will go through each one. The first one is the paving, drainage, and site work upgrades campus-wide. The budget for this project is $725,000. But we have several targeted areas totaling approximately 220 square feet of paving. Cracking and settling in normal wear and tear has caused driving and pedestrian safety issues in several parking lots and in the inner campus roadway. Specifically, we're replacing 12,500 feet of walkways, repairing or replacing catch basins, replacing approximately 150 feet of curbs, installing speed bumps, bumper blocks, and replacing about 1,000 square feet of damaged sidewalks. All areas will require partial to complete milling of surfaces. Next project is a biotech chiller replacement. The budget for this project is $625,000. We have an existing 500-ton absorption chiller, which was installed in 2005. It has about a 20-year life expectancy. We plan on replacing the existing chiller with an efficient electric chiller. Electric chillers are smaller, less polluting, and have a higher level of performance. The project will also involve removing and replacing about 20 feet of concrete block wall for access to the boiler room. The next project is the access control upgrade in Middletown and Newburgh. The budget for this project is $320,000. Currently, we have two separate access control systems, one in Newburgh, one in Middletown. The current systems no longer support software updates. The access control system Middletown is also tied to the BMS system, which causes access issues when multiple parties log in at the same time. So if the HVAC department logs in to the system, security can't log in and control their access points. The upgraded technology will create one system for both campuses and make it separate from the building management system, the BMS system. The next two projects are the campus camera upgrades, both in Middletown and Newburgh. The estimated budget for Newburgh is $300,000. For Middletown, it is $330,000. Most of the existing cameras in Newburgh and Middletown are between 8 and 12 years old. The existing servers are not reliable and continue to be problematic. Cameras have a life expectancy of about 5 years, and many of the cameras can no longer be repaired. The goal for phase one, which is this phase, is to replace all the recording servers, either for viewing or recording, and adding additional new cameras. The new servers with upgraded technology will give security additional image retention, and the new technology and cameras will provide more video resolution and clarity. It will also have the ability to zoom in on specific objects and read license plates.
Just one comment on the camera systems. This is phase one of a 2-year project, so you'll be hearing about this again next year. We have an extensive camera system on both campuses, but as Corey said, it's getting rather long in the tooth, and we've had these projects in the pipeline for a while, so we haven't been investing as much into repair of existing cameras have gone down. So we are at a point where we definitely need the upgrade, and we appreciate your support, particularly on that project.
Okay.
Just a question for that. So that's not, you're not encompass the whole campus then? This is only a portion of it? Or is this for all of them, but you're only doing that?
Eventually, it will be the whole campus.
But
And this is
money-wise, this is half.
That's half.
Some on Newburgh and some on Middletown.
Right, but I mean, those total amounts of 330 for Middletown.
Right, that's the half. That's half.
That's half of what Middletown needs to be upgraded.
Correct.
So is it a large area that hasn't been done, that's taking up most of the monies, that you're adding? Or?
No, not really. I mean, it's the system. We have various access points that are failing. So there's not one specific system or one specific area that needs to get the work done. We're basically methodically kind of just replacing cameras and the servers as a whole.
Yeah, if your question is, are there areas of the campus where a bunch of cameras are out in the same place? That's not the case. It's more sporadic around.
So you'll be back for when you decide where the other areas are that you need.
Correct.
How many cameras is that? $330,000.
We have, I don't have that exact number, but I can get that for
As
you.
I recall, we have about 300 in Middletown, and it's not only the cameras, it's the software, it's the servers.
System.
So it adds up pretty quickly.
Any other questions? Mr. Cheney?
On the legislative request form, the county attorney's office made a comment regarding seeker and whether that needed to be done or not. And they suggested that the college council provide, I guess, input to this. Could you speak to that, please?
I can't say very much to it. I did get an email this morning from Attorney Golden reminding me of this issue, and I do need to reach out to our attorney to understand that process. I'm not overly familiar with it, but as I understand it, when we enter into these projects, the consulting engineers also have a comment as to what is required under SECR. So I do not have the answer to this question.
Could I ask our council?
Yeah.
So
Can-
can
yeah.
we proceed with this without that information, or can that be tacked on in another resolution at another meeting if it was necessary?
Or can he get us the information before we meet next week?
I think it's gonna have to be an issue that has to be addressed. The seeker issue has to be addressed with council prior to.
So,
So moving forward with it at this point would, without the seeker issue being addressed would not be,
prudent.
yes.
Okay.
If we have the answer in time for the full vote next week, would that suffice?
That's it. He just said if the attorney, his attorney gets back to us sufficiently with the information before our meeting, our next meeting, we would vote on this. Is that sufficient or not?
Is there any portion of this that, the issue here is that there is a portion of it that requires bonding. And so the resolution will come from bond counsel. So in anticipation of that, I imagine that the college's council would want to have some input on it before that resolution is completed. So depending on the time frame of that, if council can be consulted this week, that would probably be better because we have bond counsel involved.
Okay.
Yeah.
We can attend to that right after the meeting.
Rick, would you agree to that?
Well, it's not my place to agree, but I do agree with Betsy that, as long as legally, as long as seeker is completed before you fund it, and you don't take really a funding action, it's just a recommendation for the agenda. But you wouldn't take that funding action until you full meeting. And so as long as seeker was completed prior to that, but as Betsy said, it has to be done quickly because the seeker has to be done.
Right.
I didn't hear a description especially as to B and C. I think clearly A, D, and E aren't really going to be subject to seeker review because they're not an action on the seeker. And I'd have to know more about B or C to determine whether or not they'd be subject to seeker, and if so, whether it be a type 2 action. And therefore, there'd be no further review needed by this body. If it was an unlisted action and there was actually consideration that had to be happening, normally you do that at your committee meetings. Legally, you could do it at your full meeting, but that would be out of your practice that you would do.
Correct.
Chairman,
Yes.
may I also point out, however, this did pass through the E&E committee.
Right, I understand it, but they didn't consider what we're
Correct.
considering.
So that will have to be something that will be addressed either prior to the legislative session or at the time of the legislative session, if the consultation has been made by then and everything has been sorted out with bond counsel. So
Okay.
I just want to make the committee aware of that.
Okay, so Madam Chair, are you okay with us voting on this today with additional information coming forward to satisfy all the legal requirements?
I don't think that's a question for me. That's a question.
Betsy, are you okay with it?
I don't think that at this point, we should, without getting the consultation, because without having it being addressed, I don't think it's prudent to do that at this point.
Okay,
But
Ms.
may I just add
Sure,
that it's, at this point, it is going to committee because it is going to session because it did pass E&E. So we will have to remedy that one way or the other, depending upon if we get additional information.
right,
And
okay,
if we don't, we'll have to pull it.
right. Mr. O'Donnell?
Okay, so there's a couple of security issues here which certainly deal with the safety of our students. And they're particularly A, D, and E, and they don't have to be any seekers. So I'd make a motion to
Separate.
separate A, D, and E at this time.
Second.
Second. And we can vote on A, D, and E.
Okay, so discussion on the motion and the second to separate them into the two different parts, seeker related and unseeker related. And again, since if we pass this here, again, it's passed by one committee, just like E&E passed a separate resolution. So that'll be settled as to what goes to the floor.
Right, my point is that if they have a problem with the seeker, we don't want to get rid of everything.
Right,
And
exactly.
I'm saving time on the floor by doing this
Right.
now.
Mr. Cheney?
I guess just a further question. If the council comes back and decides that B and C, well, none of them require seeker, then the motion from E&E could move forward
Yeah.
and we can withdraw this.
This one.
We'll go ahead. This is.
Correct.
Yes.
Good. Thank you.
Mr.
And
Padu?
My
Hold on.
question,
Mr. Padu?
He got it.
He got it.
He just answered. That was what I was concerned about, two different motions.
Okay, is there any further discussion on the separating of the A, D, and E from the B and C?
No, separating B and C. We're taking B and C out of our
Yeah.
motion.
That's what I just said. Separating A, D, and E from B and C. All right. No further discussion? All right, so Carrie Ann, roll call on the approving of the A, D, and E separate.
Nagasaki,
Yes.
Russia,
Yes.
McDonald,
Yes.
Fagiel,
Yes.
Klein,
Yes.
Paduk,
Yes.
Cheney,
Yes.
Benton,
Yes.
motion carried.
Just one question. So the amount of the plan that's created would be changed too then, right?
Yes, the numbers will be changed, depending, yes, accordingly, whichever resolution actually makes it to the floor.
Because we didn't put a number on it.
No, We just separated it out. The technicalities of the print will have to be done correctly. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Next up, Commissioner Planning. Alan? Thank you, Rick. This is a request to increase the budget for capital project number 542 by a total of $183,411.13 to reflect revenue received from the auctioning of buses and insurance recovery checks. The budget increases are for lines 4, 5, and 6 as follows. Capital project number 542L4 in the amount of $45,128.14. Capital project number 542L5 in the amount of $36,738. And capital project 542L6 in the amount of $101,544.99. This is per FTA regulations. These funds may be used for transit-related expenditures. In order to use the funds received for future transit use, the budget lines within the capital projects must be increased. Motion in the second, please, for discussion. Cheney, Paduk.
Oh, Mr. Chair, thank you. I want to take one moment just to provide some additional information. A question came up in rules about whether or not the buses that we're selling at auction could be made available for other purposes. So I just, if I could, take a minute just to kind of explain how it works. And the short answer is, well, let me start with the policy. So just as background, Orange County leases buses to both municipalities and non-municipal bus operators. So in the municipality leases are typically for dial-a-bus services. The non-municipal bus operators are like Coach USA when they're providing the commuter coaches. So the buses are funded with our Federal Transit Administration funds, partly with New York State DOT, and then local funds by the local bus operators. When a bus reaches the end of its useful life, which is typically about 12 years, those buses are retired. And there's a policy, a process that we have to go through. We have to have FDA's authority to take these buses out of service, and then they are auctioned off at fair market value. The proceeds of which from the auction go back into the Orange County Transit Capital Project Fund 542. So that's the purpose of the resolution. So we had buses that were auctioned off. There was a bus, Legislator Purdue just wanted to clarify from the last meeting, there was a bus that actually did catch fire. So that was the reason the insurance check was some of the proceeds from that were included in this. So the question that you asked is whether the buses could be made available to like a not-for-profit or other entity. The municipalities may request that the county sign over title to the bus once it's no longer in transit service, provided the municipality intends to use the bus for another use. Now, if the municipality were to make that request, we would sign over that title. They just have to indicate what their intended use of that bus would be. The one thing I would caution is, in many cases, or most cases, the buses are being auctioned off because they're at the end of their useful life. So they have a high mileage. They're probably still operational, but probably not conducive to like trying to continue to run a transit service. Maybe for something that's, not a routine use, they might be usable, but I just wanted to provide that clarification to you.
There's a possibility.
It is, yes, yeah. So I wanted to clarify.
But buyer beware.
Yeah,
And I know the question that you had to do also with like nonprofits. This is specifically just municipality.
it is, it seems to be a little bit of a gray area there, and what the municipality decides to do with the bus after they've taken title, I think is an open question. But that may be something we'd want council to look into further before pursuing it.
Thank you for that information.
Oh, no, you're welcome.
All right. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor as presented? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
before you move on, for item number 2, you did take a vote on the motion to separate, but
Yes.
a vote was never taken on the motion after it was
The
separated.
amended.
Amended motion.
We amended the motion to separate A, D, and E.
Yes,
Oh,
and then a-
okay. Oh, so we
Yeah,
need
a
to
vote was never
approve.
taken.
Okay,
on
I'm
it.
sorry. Yes, thank you for the correction. Okay, so let's go back to number 2, simply for the vote of giving the approval for project A, D, and E. Is there any questions? Can I have a motion and a second for that? Mr. Hines, Mr. Brescia? Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you, Betsy. On to emergency services. Welcome, Mr. Igliano.
Good afternoon.
I'm sorry, I don't know your rank. I should call you by your rank.
That's all right.
No matter when, ever. Hey, Benny, how are you? Okay, so this is a request to approve the use of capital funds to make necessary repairs at the fire training facility buildings, including replacing the roof and or roof coating for the main building, replace lighting with LED style lighting, replace heating unit in hazmat garage, fill and seal roadway cracks, HVAC duct cleaning and repair, replace floor covering in the main building, and replace fire escape and doors on outdoor training buildings, and engineering and planning for redesign of the water pump system. The repairs are to critical infrastructure components of the main building and training buildings. The facility and grounds are regularly utilized by fire agencies, law enforcement agencies, and numerous county departments and other public safety and civic groups. Supplemental appropriation is requested. Funds are available in the operating budget. This was not a proposed capital project in the 2023 capital plan. Upon approval, a new capital project will be created, and the amount for this is $250,000. Can I get a motion and a second for discussion? Duke? I'll second. Gentlemen, welcome to your first Ways and Means.
Thank you. So the Fire Training Center, as you all know, is a valuable asset for the county. We utilize it, all first responders, the volunteer firemen. It's a great location for our first responders to train. A couple weeks ago, I went down, I did a tour of the building and the grounds. It was an extremely busy day at the Fire Training Center. There was a lot of activity, a lot of people coming and going. Actually, it was great to see for the county. But there were definitely some items that needed to be addressed at the facility that pertain to the safety and also protecting our assets there. I asked for the budget director if we had additional funds to address these items. Deputy Commissioner Tankaselli can talk further about the safety issues that we encountered. And luckily for us, there was some funds available, and we would love to start work there, if approved, as soon as we possibly can. Likely, some of these items would have to be addressed in early spring because some of them are exterior work that needs to be done. But it would be helpful if we can move forward. Vinny, if you want to talk on the safety issue.
Sure, and most of you are probably familiar, but if you aren't, the Fire Training Center was built in 1991, so it's over 30 years old. A lot of the infrastructure of the training center has held up pretty well, but it's 30 years old now, and we're starting to see, quote unquote, the cracks in the wall with the building, literally and figuratively. So, a lot of this is related to the maintenance of proper upkeep of the building. There are several safety concerns addressed in here. One of them is, for example, the fire escape. The fire escape is part of our training tower. Our firefighters use that to stretch hose, spray water, and the fire escape itself is deteriorated, but the material it's made out of, our newer buildings have a graded stairway, basically steps, so that you don't slip when water's on it. And that's one of the things we're trying to improve with this, as well as the LED lighting, especially this time of the year when we're doing training in the evening, which is predominantly our volunteer firefighters are training in the evening. It's pitch black there. So any lighting we can add is good. Replacing our existing lighting, especially outdoors with LED, will offer us that extra safety measures that we need.
Okay, great. And we know that it is used tremendously because there was just an incident at the transfer station. And the first units to respond, I think, were from West Point. And it's like, how the hell did that happen? But they were trained there, so they just had to literally pack up and go next door. So that was well done. That was well done. Question from committee members? Mr. Padu.
Yeah, thank you. Is there a reason that it wasn't submitted to for the capital plan in 2023? You just came up with it after it was completed, or?
Well, some of the work has been ongoing work, basically. So yearly out of our operating budget, we try, again, keeping our budget low. We address immediate needs, but invariably these start popping up, and these are items that are going to continue and deteriorate. So we're trying to take this opportunity to address them before it becomes a bigger issue and a larger cost.
I understand. Okay, and then the 250, are you taking it from something else? Since it's in your operating budget, it's for what? What is it for? That you're taking it from?
Deb?
Okay, so in the 2023 budget, we put in 6.85 million for transfers to capital. We spent most of that down, but we had just about a little over $250,000 left. I wanted to spend it out. We had the project, so we did it.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Cheney.
The lighting project, have you pursued any possible grants through NYSERDA or anyone?
We talked actually originally to Orange and Rockland several years ago about that. They had these available funds. Unfortunately, those expired. We have not been able to locate any other grants. But in fact, facility funding for grants, it's very hard to find.
Thanks for trying.
Fire.
Okay, Mr. O'Donnell.
You mentioned it's pitch black out there, right? And you said you put in new lighting.
We're replacing.
That's not listed.
We're replacing our lighting in there. That's old 20-year, 30-year technology with the LED.
No new lighting.
No additional new lighting. We're replacing.
Okay. Okay, no problem.
We're adding new light by virtue of the new lighting, creating that the light should see.
Keep trying to put that in.
Better fixtures.
We bring our own lights with us, too.
All right. Any other questions? Committee members or other legislators? Hearing none, all in favor as presented?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Next up, Anne Marie. This is a request to accept New York State Office of Mental Health WOGI Welcome Orange Geriatric Initiative grant funding from the Orange County Office of Mental Health to the Office of the Aging. And this is in the amount of $13,532. Motion in the second, please. Hines, Gresham.
And Lee, it's me.
Hi,
It's Danielle.
how are you?
Hi,
Dan-
good, how are you? Good to see
With
you.
all the people, I can't look to see
That's
who's
okay.
here covering for who.
That's okay.
Welcome. It's been a long time since
Yeah,
you've been
thank
here.
you, thank you. So WOGI, is our Welcome Orange Geriatric Initiative. It's a state office of mental health, funded triple partnership between us, aging, mental health, and, other substance use agencies. We're in existence, to maintain stability in the community for individuals age 55 and older with behavioral health and or substance use disorder. Our goal is to also increase access to behavioral health services, aging services, and substance use abuse services by providing outreach, community-based services, and telehealth psychiatry services. In the past, for whatever reason, yes, it's a triple partnership, but our Office for the Aging never received any funding for our efforts and all that we did for this program. So now we're getting a little piece of the puzzle in the tune of $13,532. And we're gonna help with marketing and promotion, information and assistance, to better promote this program.
Okay, thank you. Questions from committee members? Other legislators? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried? Thank you.
Okay.
That was fast.
That was fast. And after 12 years, that was my first Ways and Means Committee. So thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
We should have given you a little more trouble.
Yeah.
Next up, Dr. Pointer and Deputy Lahif. Welcome. Letter A is a request supplemental appropriation to the capital projects budget for electronic medical record software. This is a proposed capital project number 75 in the 2023 capital plan. Upon approval, a new capital project will be created, partially bonded and partially grant funded. This is the amount of $150,000 partial bonding. Motion in a second, please.
So moved.
Cheney, Fagion. Ladies, how are you?
Good. This is for our electronic medical record. So to this point, we've had paper records for most of our clinics. We did have an EMR for our home visiting program in the past, but that has sundowned. We also have clinics for sexual health clinics. We have immunization clinics and a tuberculosis clinic. So this will allow us to get labs electronically, send medications electronically, and have access to patient records when we're not physically in our clinic location. And as you mentioned, part of this will be covered by grant funding.
Okay, questions? All right, hearing no questions, all in favor as presented for A? Aye. Opposed? Carried, thank you. Letter B is a request to accept and appropriate in the operating budget year 3 funds from the New York State Department of Health AIDS Institute for the disease intervention services for the period 1/1/2024 to 12/31/2024. This is in the amount of $225,000. Motion in a second, please. Paduk, Fagion, Doctor.
This is year 3 of 5 for this particular grant. The goal of this grant is to reduce transmission of HIV and other sexually transmitted infections in the community. This pays for a public health investigator and some of the other costs associated with our sexual health program in general. So things like transportation, we have some training for our employees, and that's pretty much it. So some furniture, things like that. So this is basically for our sexual health program, and specifically the program that looks at reducing transmission of STIs.
Okay. Questions? Hearing none, all in favor as presented? Aye. Opposed? Carried. C, request to accept and appropriate funds from the National Network of Public Health Institutes for the Racial Justice Competency Model Pilot Program for the period 11/1/2023 to 9/1/2024. This is in the amount of $1,200. I do just have a question, 11/1/2023 to 9/1/2024, not 10/30?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you. Doctor?
So this is a very small grant. This is like a micro grant, but essentially the Department of Health is doing strategic planning. And this is just to make sure that we ensure a diversity of partners and community members are considered when we consider our strategic plan.
Okay. Questions from committee members? Hearing none, all in favor as presented? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay. We also have a deed which was added. This is a request to accept and appropriate funds from Health Research, Inc. for the PH infrastructure, public health infrastructure, workforce and data systems, public health information for the period 12/1/2022 to 11/30/2027. Motion in a second, please. Brescia, I'll second. First question, Doctor, why are we going back to 12/1/22?
This is a grant that was given to us by the state, and the state of New York has been very delayed in getting their contracts out.
Okay.
A year delayed in this case in getting their contracts out to us.
So have we been incurring costs with this program?
No.
No? Okay. Okay. Questions from committee members?
This is one,
Mr. Paduk?
the total for those years is 923, right? So it'll differ every year, Ms. Bowman?
Yes, so this was supposed to be a 5-year grant, currently now a 4-year grant. And the $923,000 is for the full 5 years. So we don't typically bring grants to committees in this way, but this is how the state's giving it out for this particular grant. So each of these items is for the full length of the grant, not divided up per year. So each of these need to be divided per year. And this is specifically a grant. There's a separate public health infrastructure, workforce and data systems grant that was given by the CDC to the states. What the state has provided us is only the workforce part. So our deliverables are only around recruitment and retention, and that was given to us by the state. So the infrastructure and data systems right now we're limited, and we can't spend to those ends.
Okay. So it's up to you to manage the $923,000 over the next 4 years. It's not that you have to spend equal amounts each year,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor as presented? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Next up, Eric Benega, Commissioner, Public Works. And everything except the last two, I believe, at physical services?
Everything.
We
We covered the last two, yeah.
Okay.
In addition, a revised agenda for us.
Revised, okay, right. So everything did pass physical yesterday. Okay, so A is request supplemental appropriations to the capital project budget for the Fleet Wash building in the town of Goshen and the village of Goshen. This project has been approved under the 2023 capital plan as project number 36. Upon approval, these funds will increase existing capital project number 537. This project has been determined to be a type 2 action under seeker under NYCRR Part 617.5 C9. This is in the amount of $1,500,000 to come from bonding. Motion in a second, please. O'Donnell, Brescia. Thank you. And yes, this used to be quite a controversial subject at one point. Gentlemen.
Yeah, this, I mean, we obviously spoken about the Fleet Wash
on more than one occasion before. History went back a little bit to a shared services grant we tried to apply for that didn't come to fruition. So in order to protect some of our more expensive assets, being plow trucks, the concrete floor that we've been investing in the garage as well, we're asking to try to move forward with, and we'd already previously released design monies for it. So we are actually just beginning the design, but we'd like to be able to get this out to bid in 2024. Actually do the construction. We did talk a little bit last night just about make sure we're using long-lasting building materials, non-corrosive type materials and those things. It's about roughly a 2,000 square foot building, falls under Type 2 under secret.
All right, thank you. Again, like I said, this has been around for quite a while, right, Mr. Brescia?
Yeah, I'd like to just say that it's good to see legislators that voted no 8 years ago or voted no, and they see the merit of this project, which was the same merit 8 years ago.
Mr. Chan.
I'd just like to work off of that a little bit. I remember paying a visit to the garage and prior to the floor projects and seeing the condition of those floors. And under the leadership of Chairman Brescia at the time, there was efforts made and tried to get it done to get the project to move forward. Tried the shared services way, but that didn't work for us. And I'm just happy now that we're able to vote on this before Legislator Brescia leaves office.
Thank you, sir. Yes, us old timers remember it very well. And I don't think, and Mr. O'Donnell remembers it, even though he wasn't on the legislature at the time.
So do you have any idea how much water you're gonna use yearly, and what are you doing on the runoff?
So it'd be depending on how many storms that we have, but we're washing everything by hand and it's being collected in a grit and oil separator. And that is gonna go right into the Village of Goshen sewer collection system. So it's not like we're washing vehicles every day, it's mostly during winter time. But in the summer, we are going to be utilizing it intermittently. But it
You've
won't,
already talked to Goshen, they were able to handle it?
yes, yep.
You must have given them some type of number, right?
I don't have that right here with me, but we'll get that to them.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions from legislators? Hearing none, all in favor as presented? Aye. Opposed? Carried, thank you. B, request supplemental appropriation to the capital project budget for preliminary engineering and design of the Montgomery Salt Barn at the Orange County Airport in the town of Montgomery. This project has been approved under the 2023 capital plan as project number 51. Upon approval, a new capital project will be created in the amount of $50,000 from bonding. Can I get a motion in a second, please? Brescia, I'll second. Gentlemen?
So this is over on the airport property, Hangar Road. As you come in, make a right towards where the hangars are and your pumps are for the garage, for the highway use. It's in rough shape. It's only about 300, holds about 300 tons. Creates a lot of inefficiencies for us having to go back and refill the thing after almost every storm, getting a lot of back and forth. So the idea here is to replace an old broken down building with a newer building, about 2,000, hold about 2,000 tons, make our operations much more efficient, and obviously serve that part of the county over there that's a little bit distance from our Goshen garage.
Okay.
We're looking at either a pole barn or a dome design that's going to come to fruition based on what
So,
our design consultant.
and the dome style building basically has concrete push wall with the dome on top of it?
Correct.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I
it's just,
assume so.
it's very similar to what we have at our Goshen facility where you've got a 10-foot concrete wall.
Yeah.
And then the dome style roof.
Right, okay.
We're looking at both styles to see what's the most cost efficient. Likely gonna go with the.
How would
whatever's most
how would a pole barn walls replace the concrete push walls?
So we have pole barns on all three of our maintenance facilities, and we have to have plywood walls inside of it to protect the vertical posts that go up and hold up the roof. But the volume doesn't quite meet the amount that you get in the dome, because you can stack it straight up in the center. You get a lot more efficiency in salt storage with the dome.
Okay. All right, questions from committee members? Other legislators? Hearing none, all in favor as presented? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. C, request supplemental appropriation to capital project budget for intersection improvements. This project has been approved under the 2023 capital plan as project number 44. Upon approval, a new capital project will be created. This is a type 2 action as defined in section 617.5C1, 2, 5, 22, and 23. And the amount is from $150,000 from bonding. Motion in the second, please. Mr. O'Donnell,
I'll second that.
Fagione. Eric.
Okay, this is been somewhat of an annual ask. We've had an ongoing program of intersection improvements for those things that come up as we need them for safety reasons mostly. We do have a list of projects that was submitted as backup, which 4 active projects, 4 more immediate projects, you should say, right on the shelf, worth of just over $500,000, including the Leone Lane intersection improvements over in Chester, right near the UPS or the
It's the industrial park.
Industrial park,
yeah, right by the I think it's UPS is right there at the intersection. There is currently just under $397,000 in previous year's funding. This would be another $150,000 we'd be asking to add to that. But we do have a list of projects that we very quickly go through those funds and then have a little bit left over for those sort of emergency pop-up intersection improvements that we have to make that it is important to have available to us.
And all to be done starting in the spring, or?
Yeah, Leone Lane actually will be ready to go in the spring. Yes, we have a bid out. I think
It's general services right now.
yeah, it's at general service now, ready to go to bid.
Okay. All right, questions from committee members? Mr. Padu.
The additional 350, I think you said that you had already, that you had in 152.
Yeah,
397.
397. Yep.
Are there projects that didn't get completed that are not gonna be completed now, or are they included in that money stack?
No, they're included. There's some projects that we maybe didn't get to as quickly as we hoped to, that we were going to spend the money on, that we've been planning for, maybe doing some.
They're in here still.
Yeah, those are in. We haven't eliminated anything. There was one, I think we had talked about the Foster Town improvements over in Newburgh a little bit, and I believe we may end up creating a separate project for that, because it becomes a little bit bigger.
Right,
But we've been
yeah,
doing some
that's a
of the reviews
difficult
on that.
intersection, 5 or
Yeah.
6 way. All right. Any other questions? Hearing none, all in favor as presented? Aye. Opposed? Carried. D, request supplemental appropriations to capital project budget for the detailed design, right-of-way acquisition, and construction of the Hulstown Road Cromline Creek Bridge replacement. This is bin number 3344180 in the town of Blooming Grove, and has a pin number of 8762.27. This project has been approved under the 2023 capital plan as project number 35. Upon approval, this will increase existing capital project number 535 in the amount of $3,820,500. The federal share is 95%, $3,629,475, and the county share is 5%, which amounts to $191,025 to come from bonding. Motion in a second, please. Signs.
Good.
Eric?
This is off the Bridge New York program, which Ryan here has done an excellent job. As I mentioned on Monday too, of just bringing in a lot of funding with our applications, our in-house applications, which has also saved us money because we haven't had to hire consultants to do so, which many municipalities do to get these applications in. So, so kudos to him for that. And we had design in progress. The process is that the DOT reviews our preliminary design and then give us authorization to move forward with detailed design and right-of-way acquisitions as necessary. So that's where we're at in the process right now.
Okay. Questions from committee members? Hearing none, all in favor as presented? Aye. Opposed? Carried. All right, on to E, request supplemental appropriations to capital project budget for the Main Street Bridge number 2 in the town of Cornwall. I call it Canterbury Brook Bridge. This project has been approved under the 2023 capital plan as proposed project number 49. Upon approval, this will increase existing capital project number 459. This project was previously determined to have type 2 action under seeker, resolution number 273 of 2021. The amount is $2,950,000 to come from bonding. Motion in a second, please. Hines.
Second.
Fagione. Eric.
Okay, this one we've spoken about in the past as well. This is the bridge just adjacent to the traffic circle in the town of Cornwall. We did just recently get bids in. Bids are quite a bit higher than we had hoped. The FHWA has released a study that says that construction costs are up 53.8% over the last roughly 2.5 years. So we're now starting to see that. It's true. Yeah, so this, we have the bids in. We have some urgency here with the time because we have a 45-day period to get the bids award. We believe it's urgent to move forward with this. There are, obviously, this is a project that entails a lot of, we talked about phase construction with this because we have the businesses that are immediately adjacent to the traffic circle there rather than closing the road. We're working in a regulated DEC stream. We're working in close proximity to businesses and other homes with pedestrian traffic coming around. So there are a lot of characteristics of this site that do make it more challenging than a lot of other sites as well.
And can you explain the pipes going underneath?
Yeah, so there's also a water main that goes underneath the stream right here adjacent to the bridge. The village of Cornwall and Hudson, their water department is looking to replace that water main and piggyback our project. So they actually had something out to bid just recently for some of that work lining up the timing of our project. They were going to bring that above the stream now, attach it to the bridge and insulate it above ground. We also have the gas company has a gas line that's attached to the bridge. So in order to do this, we have to disconnect their gas line. We can only do that during warmer weather conditions because obviously the gas provides heat to homes and businesses. And they can supplement that for short periods for the duration of the warmer weather periods. But during the colder months, they definitely need that. So we're limited in construction in that way as well.
Okay. And it was mentioned yesterday that the water line is going to be cut. Right now it goes underneath the stream. So they're going to cut it and leave that part underneath so that the stream is not disturbed. Does the gas line also go underneath the stream?
I believe that's above now.
Above now.
Yeah, I think it's attached to the bridge now.
Okay.
It's just that we have to disturb it to do our project.
Right. Right. Any questions from committee members? Hearing none, all in favor as presented? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you. All right, last one. F, request supplemental appropriation to the capital project budget for the implementation of fleet asset system replacement, fuel management inventory tracking system replacement, and replacement of fuel islands, pumps, tanks, and related appurtenances. Upon approval, a new capital project will be created. The funding will be used from the approved 2023 capital plan, project number 28. This is in the amount of $1,400,000 from bonding. Motion in a second, please.
I'll make the motion.
Fagione, I'll second. Eric?
All right, so this is a combination of some of you know, we've had some issues with fuel pumps, especially over at the jail that we're trying to get the whole system replaced over there. There's no canopy over there to protect people from the weather when they're fueling up. And we have our system over in the Goshen garage is really, I think I showed pictures at one point that it's rusting, it's old, because it's a very narrow little canopy to protect the equipment and keep it pumping. So this combines that with the software programs that we've just recently bid out, which is the fuel and fleet software, which are antiquated, they're unsupported at this point, which puts us in a vulnerable position if something goes wrong. So we're looking to move those forward. We did just get proposals in for the software that we're looking to move forward with. So that's a very promising project. Other than that, did I miss anything else?
No. Okay. Questions from committee members? Hearing none, all in favor as presented?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for filling in. Carried. welcome. Letter A is a request to accept and affirm the Orange County Debt Management Policy. Motion and a second for discussion, please.
So move.
Mr. O'Donnell, Mr. Cheney. Okay, now I'm used to getting a stack of paper. And so now that it's on computer here on my phone, can you go explain,
Yeah, sure.
the changes? Because we do this every year.
Yeah.
So what we really need to know is what the changes are.
So basically, we have a phenomenal secretary that's her degree far exceeds mine because she catches every grammatical error. So that's why on this request, there's a lot of just simple changes like and versus slash. So I can go page by page if you'd like, or you're good at that. Okay.
We're fine with grammatical stuff, just the
Okay, yeah,
basic.
so basically, like I said, we come here every year. At the crux of it, the last two, Appendix A and Appendix B, are what change. That's basically, so at the end of the day, our debt margin is, the 92.39%. It's the last number on page 13. And our total direct debt right now is 203, 207, 12, and that's 7.61%, and we're well within our limit.
Okay, what was that? Can you, 20 what?
Sure. 203, 207, 012. And that was as of October 1st, 2023.
Okay. Questions from committee members? Hearing none, all in favor as presented? Aye. Opposed? Carried. B is the opposite end, request to amend and accept the Orange County investment policy. Motion in the second, please. Gresha and Hines.
Sure, so this is another yearly ask. The only thing that we've done this year is, as you know, we have more money that I am required to invest to ensure that we're doing the best for the taxpayer. So we're increasing the limits of the bank so that therefore we can be more competitive. And some banks have come in stronger and I need to increase their limits so that we're able to give those banks more money as they're willing to give us better rates.
Okay, is there anybody being cut?
Yes, Signature was removed off the list and Flagstar was added to the list.
Okay, thank you. Questions from committee members? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried, thank you. C is a request to amend resolution number 190 of 2023 dated July 6, 2023 to reflect the correct fund organization account combination and to move the budget. Supplemental appropriation is required. Motion in a second, please.
Make the motion.
Fagione. Second Cheney.
So I think you just said it. Basically, there was a resolution number 190 that we need to correct due to a error on our fund Oregon account, and we're here to ask you to do that.
Okay, when you find a little mistake, you just gotta make sure you correct it, that's all.
Exactly. And in the past, we've kind of come all at the end as we're finding corrections, we're coming to the table.
Okay. Questions from committee members, other legislators? Hearing none, all in favor as presented? Aye. Opposed? Carried, thank you. Sales tax update.
Sure. So like every other department, in October, we did not provide an update due to the fact that we were doing our budget. For the month of October, you guys all have these sheets in front of you, correct?
Yeah, real small.
Oh, sorry. I could print them out for you if you'd like. I'll help
Well,
you.
no, we're trying to do paperless, so let's expand, that's all.
All right, so for the month of October, we were down 10.42%. Thank you. I should put my glasses on as well. We were down that percentage. That, as we've talked about in the past, is the reconciliation month. That's when they, they pre-give us the money, they go back in, they correct their books. And once again, for this month, it was not in our favor. In November, we were up a smidge, 1.82%. And as you know, sales tax is a lagging indicator. Having little children myself for 8 weeks in a row, having rain and stuff, this is where we're really seeing this figures, in my opinion, from the lagging indicator of how for 8 weekends in a row in September, October, people weren't, in my opinion, going out, maybe not going to the commons as much. I mean, it was terrible weather. Yeah, tourism might have been down, which is, in my opinion, affecting this number. Overall, for under budget, we are under budget by 92.92%. But as compared to last year, we're still up over budget. Leading indicators indicate that on Black Friday, people were out spending money. I get some alerts. One of the alerts was that the Commons had to be closed from 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. because they were so congested with people going in. So if one person went in, one went out. Small businesses that I have, a pulse on that, they were very pleased with Shop Business Local Saturday. I think there's a better term for that. I apologize.
Last weekend.
Yeah, that they were, so hopefully, but we won't see those numbers until January.
Right.
So overall, to be there is a great thing. Like I said, I'm happy with leading indicators of how holiday shopping is starting, and we'll see what happens.
Okay. And again, you also have the graphic.
Yeah, which is like we talk about all the time,
Peaks and
pretty much on
valleys.
point, right?
Always similar, pretty
Yes.
similar. All right. Questions? Mr. Hines?
I have a question not about sales tax, but before she leaves, I'd like to ask her a question.
Okay, go ahead.
So, in the IT committee, we ask questions about invoices and how they come to you.
Sure.
Is there a form that somebody fills out before it comes to you so that you know it's a valid bill? How does that work?
Form.
In other words, you get an invoice from somebody, how do you know, like? this
So the
is proper?
departments so initially it goes to the department then validates it. From there, that invoice is then sent to the finance department. So the invoice is then sent to the finance department.
When it comes to you, does it come with an approval from some individual?
Initialed or something?
Some departments have initials on them, yeah, I would say so. Some have a cover sheet with an initial from that department head on, not the department head or designee of that. So, yes,
So it's all different from different departments?
yeah, yeah.
Is that okay, or do you think we should make a formalized document that kind of, everybody follows the same
For every
procedure?
single-
So that somebody in your department who's actually gonna cut a check knows, all the dots that are aligned and across the Ts.
Well, they do follow the same procedure in that they make sure they have funding in order to pay this. They're supposed to, it's on the onus of the department to review the bill. They're to make sure that it's within the scope of, say, the contract or that they receive the goods. So we're just assuming, and they receive on the PO. So it's our assumption if they've gone through that they've done their due diligence so that, they'll complete the cover sheet and send us an invoice
So
and
you
we do
get a
some
cover sheet
further.
with every bill?
Yeah, oh yes,
Every
from
invoice
each
comes
department.
with a cover sheet?
Or a batch of, each invoice comes with a cover sheet.
So maybe for example, like a 18B attorneys, we get a batch like this with one on top that's given to us. So not every single invoice does not, but the batch that would come over would have one cover sheet for that.
So if someone were to ask you who approved this invoice, you could say that invoice was approved by so-and-so.
So it was sent to us from the department, yes, but I can't tell you in
Not
all
an
the,
individual, no.
No,
No.
not an individual signing off.
Do you think that should be something to look at?
sure, that could be a
Because
new
when we were
process.
asking questions in the IT committee, nobody knew.
Sure, so that could be something
Maybe
that,
over a certain dollar figure, they would have to have a senior approver within the department.
It just would make me, as one person sitting here, feel a little bit better knowing that somebody in this department of a certain level, and I think somebody said it might have been a fiscal officer or a department head would be responsible, or some other designee that was pre-approved to authorize things for your department. I just think it would make it easier for your staff if they
Sure.
knew, I'm writing a check and so-and-so knows that these services were given to us.
sure, we'll be happy to make any changes that
So,
you deem
I
necessary.
think maybe you could recommend something to us.
Sure,
Or
I'll be
can you
happy
show
to
us
do
a
that.
form or something?
Yeah, could you bring us next month, some forms?
Sure, I'm sorry, I wasn't prepared.
Oh, I know, I'm
No,
sorry,
no,
because
No, I let him go because I knew where he was, going, but.
Yeah,
it came up last minute, because we're
Yeah.
trying to write a report.
sure,
That's really
I'll be
good.
happy to answer any questions.
I mean,
Yeah,
I
we
think
go-
it was the department's discretions too, because I know when I worked in emergency services, Craig Cherry would do a very good job of reviewing, say, a UTC invoice to make sure that those individuals were working on the project. And he did initial them. I think it was the, discretion of the department.
But it might be good for us
I
to
think
see
we
some
should have a
cover
standard
sheets.
procedure, though, it seems to me, because there's so much money flying out of your department, obviously, because you're seeing all these contracts and invoices and things like that.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, like I
Somewhat
stated,
standardized.
the onus is on the department. The department is the one that knows what they're receiving, what they're doing, what contracted services. So they're the initial department that is reviewing those invoices and then bringing them to finance to pay.
Do they physically bring them or email them to you?
So, we have a couriers, yeah, there's a, old school, inter-office is the word I'm looking for, yes.
But some people do,
Some email them, and then some departments actually, bring them over and bring them to the window, to the tax window.
But they don't actually initial it, someone hands it to you, then it's good to go.
No, it's, everything in my office is stamped in, but it's not initialed in.
No, I mean, like, who tells you that this is a valid invoice? Can you look at every invoice that ever came to you and say that I know that so-and-so said that this is valid?
Oracle would have like the PO, the rec, like who approved it and each side of it. Like there are some manual ones that we're doing, but if it's coming from the department, we would see this, like who submitted it.
Because it would be on the Oracle system, which is then relating to the fact that who clicked on that it's received on, which department received on that.
So there's a computer trail for someone to look and try to find.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So your answer is yes. If someone said, who approved this invoice, you could say.
Who received on the invoice, yes, yes.
What is received on the invoice? I mean, someone in your department received it?
No. Someone in the department received on the invoice.
So if you're expecting a computer to be delivered, when you receive on your PO, you are stating that you've gotten.
The service.
Correct. Or the goods have been delivered.
And I'll go back to your contract question. In our department, if I have a contract, then that contract is, my administrative assistant brings that invoice to me. I don't have nearly as many contracts as other departments. I'll be the first to say that. I put my John Hancock on that and give it back to my secretary, who then brings it over, because it's in the same office, to our AP, who then pays that bill.
Mr. O'Donnell.
So just to go along with what you're doing, right? So one of your recommendations, I'm not telling you what to put in your report, but it's gonna be in there now that make a recommendation that it's uniform, right? So to do that, they're gonna have to be not just them, it's gonna have to be a committee of department heads, sit down and then make a report to the legislature. This is what we recommend. I don't think it should be up to this.
No, it's not, but ultimately, Carrie and her staff are the ones writing the checks. That's
Exactly.
So
They
the
already
stop with her.
mentioned, they already mentioned best practices with Craig Cherry.
Yeah.
But they gotta talk to every department to get their input.
Well, that's,
Right? It's a little more in depth.
if you watch the video, you'll see some of the responses.
Oh, I
People
see.
said, I don't know, and some people said it happens this
Hey,
way.
I'm agreeing with you, Kevin.
So-
I'm agreeing. I'm
There's
just
one person I
saying
didn't
that
But I admit
this
it
is
was-
how it should be to get everybody's input and let them come back to us. This is not gonna be a 1 month deal.
Oh,
No,
absolutely
6
not.
months, but part of your recommendations should be a county exec form a committee and get a uniform policy so we're all on the same page.
Uniform paperwork, standardization, that's all.
So, yeah, and just so you're aware, and you guys may, and we could bring the process, but at the end of the day, it's gone through various steps before it gets to the finance department. I just want to make that clear, that it's checked through, budget, general services, the department, all those steps to ensure that there is money for the initial PO, purchase order, excuse me, talking accounting terms and all that. But at the end of the day, there's been various steps before it comes to the finance department. We're the second check before the check gets out the door.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it. Well, Mr. Fagione.
Thank you, Lee. Chairman, quick question for you, because because I zoomed in as well. So, on this sales tax list right here, the bottom line says grand total, that says that your estimate is, that's a 0.92, or is that 0.092%?
0.92.
So you're telling us that your estimate for sales tax is less than a point off?
No,
of your
these are actuals. So
We're under budget by
1%.
less than 1%.
So we're
that's
under budget less than 1%.
and I'm not gonna take credit where credit's
Well,
due,
whoever,
so that
someone needs to get some credit for that, because that's pretty awesome.
the budget department prepares it. So they They're the ones that prepare these numbers. I just come and report on the actual numbers that we receive in our bank account, so.
Well, that's up next.
Yeah, you did give her kudos.
We can thank you too a little bit.
Well, it's also budget, and it's also O'Connor Davies who makes recommendations for the suggested sales tax collection that's voted on in the budget.
And O'Connor Davies, in my opinion, is right on point on where they think we're gonna be about 2 million short, and that's my projection as well, to be honest.
Well, we got some good people crunching the numbers, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Done?
Yep. Next up, Deb. Okay, we actually have resolution A is a request to correct resolution number 246 of 2023 dated September 7, 2023, to include bonding. Resolution making a supplemental appropriation to the 2023 county budget for Orange County Community College to cancel 2 approved capital projects and replace them with an expanded consolidated project. Supplemental appropriation required $776,991 to come from bonding. Motion and second, please.
Second.
Cheney, Fagione. How is this affected by what we just did earlier with A, B, C, D, and E?
That doesn't apply to anything.
Okay.
Basically, this was just an account error. The account 422401 should have been bonding, which is 457101, so we're just switching.
Okay. So we're just changing like that master state number.
Yes,
Okay.
the account number.
Yep. Questions from committee members? Hearing none, all in favor as presented? Aye. Opposed? Carried. Let the record also show, I should have said it first, that Mr. Anagnestakis left about at 4:45, I believe. Budget update.
Okay, so basically, the general fund through October, revenues are basically about the same from 2022. We are down in state and federal revenues, but we have an increase of about $10 million in other revenues. Those increases are basically from sales tax and interest and earning, but we are also reduced due to the fact that we had no gain of sale on tax acquired property because we have no auctions this year. So that's a deficit for us also. So basically, you know, we're pretty much status quo from 2022 to 2023. On the expense side, personal services is up about 5.5% and fringe is up about 10.5%. Through October, we had 9 more vacancies in the general fund from last year. OT is over budget through October by 3.6 million. We are making some progress in November on the vacant positions. Contractual increases. The biggest increase in the contractual is the MMIS, and that's $7.6 million over last year.
Okay. Thank you. If there's no questions, I should say, Mr. Padu.
What's the total in the undesignated fund balance right now? Do you have that? Or you don't?
I'll let Carrie. I don't have it off the top of my head. Yeah, I don't.
Really?
And Carrie.
I mean, it's a moving target every day. I mean, especially.
Yeah, no, I know that, but I mean, you general basis, is it 200 million, 212? No. Is it above 200 million? Can you tell me that?
Yes, yeah. I would say it's about 200 million.
Thank you.
But literally, like I said, every day it's a moving
No.
target. We're paying invoices at this time of year. Yeah.
All right.
Chairman, real quick.
Sure, Mr. Faggio.
What I said about finance before, I say the budget now. Thank you.
And I'm still gonna hold out hope that with the spending that we had last year, we're gonna hit that $290 million.
Excellent.
It's my goal.
Very good. Thank you, ladies.
Okay.
You better go shopping.
Don't tell my husband that.
She couldn't get in.
Next up, Director of Real Property. Welcome, Paul. A is a resolution, something we do all the time. Resolution authorizing the Commissioner of Finance for the County of Orange to make refunds or corrections of taxes in the amount of $2,500 or less. Motion and a second, please. Brescia. Second, Cheney. Paul, again, it's something we do every year. Anything else to add?
No, actually, you're absolutely right. We do this each year around this time, and it is allowed by the law, and $2,500 is the limit that is set. By doing this, it allows us in financing real property to to issue correctional errors without having to go before this board and the legislature.
All right. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor as presented? Aye. Opposed? Carried, thank you. Since this requires a vote or at least a look at, I'm gonna move deed parcels next. Motion and a second for discussion.
So moved.
Mr. Fagione, I'll second. Okay, again, too small for me to read on my phone, so we can go through them as
Sure.
we need to.
Sure, and it's barely large enough for me to read even on the sheet of paper. Well, we have 4 bids this month. 2 of them were bid by the same person last month, numbers 1 and 3, but I'll take them one at a time.
Yes.
So first one, Town of Cornwall, it's 2 parcels actually, 36 block 1 lots 15.1 and 15.2. They are residential vacant lots. There's about $17,000, $648, and in back taxes, penalties, and interest total for the 2 parcels. The minimum bid that we had set was $14,000 back at auction in 2022. The person had bid $3,000 last month. They're bidding $8,000 this month. I'm recommending no because we're not even close to
The minimum bid.
burden. Also, I should point out that that the assessor has a fair market value on these totaling almost $50,000. So I recommend no.
Okay.
Second one is Town of Mount Hope. This is a very small triangle of land, measures 37 feet at one end and about 228 feet long. Narrow strip of land. It had a minimum bid of $500. The person has bid $600, and I'm going to recommend that we accept this one because the back taxes on it are $533.28 with penalties and interest.
Road frontage?
None.
Okay.
Third one is Town of New Windsor. This is a irregularly shaped lot, about 102 by 228 when you look at the tax map. It says vacant with improvement. I believe it had a building on it that had burned down or been removed. This person had bid $4,000 last month. They're bidding $13,000 this month. We had a minimum bid on this set at $35,000 in the last auction in 2022. So I'm going to recommend we say no to this one.
Okay.
And the fourth one is parcel off of Silver Lake Road. Again, it's irregularly shaped. It's about 12,400 square feet in total area. The minimum lot size in that zoning is 18,750 square feet. So it's a non-conforming lot, but pre-existing. It does have municipal water and sewer. It is possible with a variance that this one could be developed. Minimum bid of $6,500. This person has bid $650. I'm going to recommend we say no to this one. The assessor has a fair market value of this one of $34,500.
Okay, so the recommendation is for us approving number 2. Questions from committee members on number 2? So hearing none, all in favor of taking the recommendation to approve the sale of number 2? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Carried? Thank you. Okay, on to the discussion from the Supreme Court case. Karen, would you happen to have a copy of that? I guess I left it in my truck. Oh, thank you. Thank you for doing this, Paul.
Oh, sure. And thank you for the opportunity to present this afternoon. Without getting too much into it, I'll probably just read most of my report. I put this together based upon this kind of, again, talk about a moving target. This is developing as time goes on. I can sum up my findings pretty quickly.
Yeah, why don't you just sum it up, and you don't need to read the whole thing.
Right.
Just sum it up.
Certainly. To sum it up, we don't know the answer. It's a very easy one. I can sum it up quickly as far as what happened. A woman named, last name Tyler, sued Hennepin County in Minnesota to try to get the surplus funds that were made when the county had taken her condominium and for $15,000 in back taxes and sold it for $40,000. She wanted that additional $25,000 Minnesota is like New York in where when we take a property, we sever all of the liens, we take the property and whatever we can get for it is ours. This went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the United States Supreme Court ruled unanimously that she should get the overage funds. They go back to Old English law, Magna Carta, 3 different Bill of Rights, everything where they're saying, look, 36 other states, the federal government and everyone else says you can only take what was owed to you. You can't take everything. And New York has been one of the states that has been waiting to see what was going to happen here. A moratorium was, after this court case went through, a moratorium was, within a month, was approved in Albany by both the Assembly and the Senate. The governor has not acted on that moratorium, but for the most part, most of the counties, including Orange, kind of did a self-imposed moratorium. We had not gotten to the point of having our auction yet. So when this went through in May, we decided we do not know what to do because we are not, right now, the way our laws are set, we have to take it and the overage is ours. But the Supreme Court just said it's not. So we have to actually change our laws and how we're going to do this going forward. The state is possibly going to address this in next year's budget, as the governor often does. She dictates policy by changing how things are going to be done within the budget. So we don't know exactly what's going to happen. There's a lot of questions as far as what we would do. For instance, right now, when we take a property, as I said, we sever all the liens, including mortgages, including any other liens that might be on the property. When the property from Tyler versus Hennepin was taken, not only was there $15,000 in taxes, there was about $60,000 in additional liens that were owed. And the taking of the property wipes those liens out. So if we were to give back the overage, do the liens come back? Does the person still owe them, even though the property is not theirs anymore? So I don't have an answer to that. I don't know exactly what we're going to go with that. Again, there's an awful lot of I don't knows when it comes down to it when we're looking at.
Yeah, because when I read it and looking at it, I mean, you have a person who has a property. Let's say market value is $400,000. Well, they owe $50,000 in taxes, but we sell the property for whatever we can get, whatever someone's gonna offer. But I can see how a homeowner, in paying their mortgage till they, lost it, so to speak, they built up equity. Now, they may still have a mortgage on that $400,000 piece of property for $200,000, but they have some equity there that, I think the Supreme Court is looking to make sure that they kind of get some of it or get that back.
Exactly.
And so I can see the point that I never thought of after doing these sales for 25 years here.
Right. And I know that we have been making some money in the overages. Our wins have been greater than our losses when it comes down to it. In the report, I point out that for the most part, people do try to pay their taxes, and there's the people who don't pay their taxes basically can't afford to. So we're taking away what little equity they may have had. And I believe that was part of the Supreme Court's justification for ruling the way that they did.
Yep.
Whether you agree with that or not, it sort of does not matter. What's going to matter is the law. But also, I would say morally, the Supreme Court landed on the right side of the law.
Mr. Perdue.
That means going forward, right? Not, we can revert back to.
That's a very good question.
Somebody else had that question for me earlier in the day, Mr.
Right.
Cheney.
So what we're talking about is they ruled that it was unconstitutional. It was not unconstitutional as the day of the ruling. It has been unconstitutional, arguably. So because this property was taken in 2015 and it wound its way through the courts and was eventually sold at auction in 2019 and made it to the Supreme Court in 2022 and was not decided on until May of 2023. So at what point do you say that's how far back do you go? For the most part, there's a 3-year statute of limitations in New York State for most kind of cases similar to this. I can't say for sure if they would allow going back 3 years, if it's just going to be from this point forward, if it's if we're going to say, okay, these other ones were yours from now going forward, it's going to go back to the property owner. We don't know that either.
It wouldn't be automatic though, right? I mean, they'd have to go to court to get theirs, just like that lady did.
Absolutely, for now, yes. A person would have to go to court to try to get the money.
Mr. Hines.
Did they address whether or not we get a fair price for the property, or can we just sell it for what we're owed and say we're done?
So once again, it gets even more complicated. There is a case going on right now that says the equity and the money that would be paid to the property owner is the fair market value of the property, not what you get at auction. So back to your example, a $400,000 house that had a $50,000 in back taxes and perhaps $200,000 on mortgage that was left. So what's the number? We sell it at auction for anything over 50,000 is a win, or was a win. So as far as we're concerned, but if we sold it for, say, $150,000, so now it's like, all right, do we take our 50,000 and give the 100,000 back to the property owner, and the mortgage holder gets nothing? Do we say, no, we have to honor those other liens, and so we're going to give 100 back towards the mortgagor and whatever other liens might be in the case, and still the property owner gets nothing, but at least some of their debt has gone away? Or do we say that, well, we sold it for only 150,000, but the fair market value was 400,000. So we take 50 and we owe the property owner 300. So we don't know yet. There are some cases that are pushing that argument, saying that an in rem foreclosure is similar to an eminent domain, and that you're taking the property and its value is its value, and therefore the fair market value would become big, which is another reason why we did not move forward with the auction this year. We do not know what those answers are.
Right. Mr. Cheney.
Going back to any kind of a look back, do you have a feel for what the county's exposure might be if it were to say 10 years ago, go back 10 years? I know you gave us some figures for the last couple of years. Looked like we made about $1 million or so.
Right. It was almost $2 million on the last two auctions, which were held last year together, because COVID kind of put a delay on things. So we kind of had two auctions last year, 1 year before. If we were making roughly $1 million a year, you would say that, oh, okay, our exposure could be 10 million. However, that ignores what we were just saying with about the market value. Just because that's what we got at auction, is a person entitled just to the overage at auction? Don't know that. I doubt if we would be going back that far. Again, 3 years tends to be the limitations as far as the courts are concerned. But this is not like anything that we have seen before. So I could not tell you exactly.
Uncharted territory.
Just kind of curious if that.
We can provide that number, legislator Cheney, we can get that number.
Oh, yeah. Right. And does do your counterparts in the other counties, do you have an association, and is your association doing anything to try and influence the legislation?
Right. So last month when I was not here, I was actually at my my director's conference and taking a class on what we would normally do in rem foreclosure. And the start of the class was basically saying, well, that's completely out the window because of what's happening here. And so we just discussed it at that point. We don't have a strong, there's only 50 some odd of us because of the 64 counties in the state. So we don't have a strong lobbying position. However, New York State Office of Real Property Tax Services is right in Albany and has the ear of some of the legislature and the degree of the governor. So they are advising the people, from our perspective, and there's also what this could wind up being. Remember, the state doesn't get anything from the auctions. It all comes to the counties, to the cities or villages that might wind up being foreclosures on their own. So their stake in this is more along the lines of complying with the law. It's not the same financial stake that they would normally have, but I know that they are supposed to be working on there's a variety of laws. I mentioned in my report, there's 100 different bills that have been proposed that include the word foreclosure. However, only about a dozen or so seem to be pertinent to this, but 2 or 3 of them include saying that we're going to amend the law to return all of the surplus to the tax property owner. Some say less liens, less expenses, less administration fees. So we don't know. It's a really big, I don't know, a bunch of words on this one.
Yeah. It just seems to make sense, and who knows if that'll translate to any legislation we get, but that there is what they owe in taxes, there is what they might owe in liens. And then there are costs that are associated with what we do relative to, I guess,
Collection.
a percentage that the auction company gets and the time that's devoted to it through your office and other offices within the county that I think should all be part of the equation that they end up with.
Right, I would hope so. We don't know exactly. We started paying attention more to that this past year, saying, okay, let's start jotting down more of our time and trying to see how many resources and how much time we are allocating towards this. And it's substantial. At certain times of the year, our focus shifts to everything is to prepping for the auction or the notification of the properties and going out and posting them. It's a lot of different time that we do. I'm quite sure that everything is going to be affected by whatever winds up being decided in Albany. And it is going to change everything from perhaps the percentage or the way that the auction companies operate might also change, because right now that auction gets its number on top of the auction price. So if they sell a property for X amount, it's X plus 11%. Right. So when the person says, oh, I won the bid for $100,000, like, well, yeah, but you have to pay 11 on top of that to the auction company. So that would that go back to the previous property owner? No. And so again, I don't have good answers to that. On the other hand, there are 36 other states that have already come up with solutions and don't do it the way we do. There's 4 other states in between that do something like a hybrid version of it. And then there's 10 states, including New York, that do what Minnesota was doing. So it's not that we have to completely reinvent the wheel, but this is New York and Albany, and they will create their own, I'm quite sure.
I wouldn't be surprised if there weren't 36 different ways of doing it from the ones that are doing it.
I did ask the question when I was up at the conference. I asked that of the state representatives and just said, all right, has anyone else reached out and, to try to find a state that was very similar to New York otherwise? How did they do it? And they just said, well, no, why would we do that? It's like, I don't know, 36 other wheels have already been created. So at least look to one of them. So again, I don't have much influence on what they're going to wind up doing.
But to expect something of common sense to come out of Albany, that's the biggest.
That might be a stretch.
Mr. Purdue.
Yeah, just, what happens with all these properties now, they just sit, right? We own them, or they just sit and we don't.
Right, so right now.
Shape, and we just, what happens?
Yeah, right now, where there's always a lag from when the county takes the property to when it winds up auctioning it off. And when they don't sell at auction, they stay ours until we do something with them or sell of the leftover list down the road, perhaps. So right now, all those properties are kind of in limbo, but limbo in Orange County means that we have taken title to the property, but we have not, we don't evict people, we don't do anything with the property. A lot of other counties in New York do that. So we're kind of unique, well, perhaps not unique, but from what I talked to with other county directors, for the most part, they were saying that, like, so who evicts the people and seals up the houses in your county? And it was just like, well, you don't evict the people, you don't seal up the buildings that way. What do you mean? That they're the persons until the auction, and then people have to leave at that point. But there are other ones that say, oh no, we immediately after taking title of the property, they go out with sheriffs and go out to check the property. They evict anybody that's there and they board them up. So they also, you're trying to sell the property at auction within 6 months of the taking. We tend to have our buyback period goes right up until about the auction. People can declare bankruptcy or something even after the auction, but before the transfer is recorded, and they can delay these things. And we have properties that we are kind of sitting on for years.
Right. We find those ones.
So these are all good questions that we don't have great answers to, but for now, it's we're kind of stuck with them in the interim. So.
Right.
Thank you for a very
thank
thorough,
you.
understandable report.
All right. All right, motion and second to adjourn is in order. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, carried. Thank you everyone for coming. And we're gonna go off the air.